Okay, before anything serious, did you see the Roman board game thing? 3D Natives had it this week. Researchers up at Newcastle scanned a stone game board dug out of Vindolanda, that old fort site, and reprinted it so people can actually sit down and play it.
I did. And the part that gets me isn't the printing, it's the boredom. Some soldier 1700 odd years ago, cold, wet, stuck on a wall in northern Britain, scratching out a game board to kill an afternoon. That's the most relatable Roman I've ever heard of.
1700 is roughly the site's era, to be fair. Nobody carbon dated the board itself. But that's the joy of scan and print, right? The original stone stays safe in a case and the copy gets handled, dropped, played with. You can't do that with the artifact.
Preservation by duplication, the one context where a slightly rough print is completely fine, nobody's mad, the surface finish isn't glass.
And that's a nice through line for today, actually, because here's my thesis for the week. Additive keeps announcing arrivals. In orbit, in nuclear, in rocket engines. And the real question every single time is whether we've arrived at a demo or at production. Those are not the same address.
That's the whole job this week, yeah. Separating the ribbon cutting from the part numbers.
So we've got human kidney and liver tissue bioprinted on the ISS as our headline. Then Venus Aerospace raising $91 million for a detonation-engine. Framatome opening a nuclear wire arc additive manufacturing center. New metal hardware and aluminium news. A genuinely clever community color trick. And a university claiming it can print a 3D shape in a single 20-second laser flash.
The 20-second one is where I'm parking my eyebrows. But start me on the space tissue because that's the one I can't decide if I'm excited or annoyed about.
So, Auxilium Biotechnologies, Voxel Matters, TCT, and 3D printing industry all covered it this week. They flew their AMP-1 bioprinter up on a mission they're calling AXLM-3, and they say they printed kidney and liver tissue in microgravity. First time those specific tissue types have been made in orbit, is the claim.
Say the thing that actually makes microgravity interesting, though, because it's not magic. It's structural.
Right. And this is the bit I actually love from my old biology days. On Earth, if you try to print something soft and complex, gravity fights you. Cells and hydrogels slump before they can knit together. So you print scaffolding to hold the shape, or you print into a support gel. In free fall, the structure just hangs there while it settles. No scaffold needed.
Which is genuinely neat physics. So here's my problem, and I want you to argue me out of it if you can. One of the sources framed this as regenerative medicine and drug development that, quote, cannot be done on Earth. That line is doing a lot of lifting. It hasn't earned.
No, you're right, and I won't argue that one. Earth-based bioprinting of kidney and liver tissue is a whole active field. People print liver organoids in labs right now. Microgravity might make certain structures easier or better. That's a real defensible claim. Cannot be done on Earth is a marketing sentence, not a science one.
And notice what we don't have. There's no peer-reviewed paper here. This is a company announcement relayed by 3 outlets. That's not a knock on the outlets. It's just what it is. 3 write-ups of 1 press release is 1 source wearing 3 coats.
Okay, and here's where I push back a little. Proof of concept still means something. They built a printer that survived launch, ran in orbit, and extruded living material in freefall. That's a real engineering milestone, even before the biology. The hardware working is not nothing.
It's agreed fully. The printer working is impressive, and I'll give them that without flinching. What I want to know is the next step. Did the tissue come back down alive? Because printing it is Act 1. Getting viable tissue back to Earth, sectioning it, showing the cells survived and organized the way you hoped. That's the experiment. Printing is just the setup.
And that's the honest gap. The reporting is all we printed it, not we analyzed it, and here's what we found. As someone who watched grad students weep over failed cell cultures, printing something and keeping it alive are wildly different difficulties.
So where does that leave a normal listener? I'd say a real demonstration worth being excited about. Sitting behind a wall of PR framing that oversells it. The move is to hold both. It can be a genuine first and still not be the medical revolution the headline implies.
That's fair. And selfishly, I hope they publish out because the scaffold-free angle is the interesting part, and I want to see the actual histology. Show me the cells, not the press kit.
One student asked me this exact thing last term. Actually, why print organs in space? Isn't that absurd? And the honest answer is, For the physics of soft tissue printing, it's not absurd at all. For the economics of it, ask me again in 10 years.
Let's come back to Earth, literally, with metal hardware. DAIHEN, big Japanese heavy electrical company, something like $1.5 billion in annual sales, just unveiled their first metal printer. It's a wire arc system called the Arc Builder 3D, and it's taking orders now. Voxel Matters had it.
And this is the kind of entrant I actually pay attention to. Not a startup with a render and a runway, a company that already builds welding and arc equipment at scale. Wire arc additive is basically robotic welding that stacks beads into a shape. If your day job is arc power sources, you're not entering a new field, you're extending your existing one.
Say more on that. Why does the welding heritage matter so much for wire arc specifically?
Because in wire arc additive manufacturing, the print quality basically is the weld quality. Consistent arc, consistent wire feed, consistent heat. That's the whole ball game. A company that's spent decades making arc stable for welders has the hard part in-house. The motion and the software they can buy or build. That's a credible position, not vaporware.
The one thing we don't have is a price or a spec sheet worth judging, so significant new entrant is our read, not a proven fact yet. But the pedigree is the story here more than the machine.
Exactly the frame I'd use. The other materials item, though, I want to gently roll my eyes at.
EOS and Constellium. They've partnered to bring new aluminium alloys to industrial additive manufacturing at scale, better high-performance aluminium powders for laser powder bed fusion, aimed at automotive and aerospace. TCT ran it under a headline about setting a new benchmark for aluminium.
And there's the eye roll. Partnership is not a benchmark. Nobody announced an alloy. Nobody announced test data. Two companies agreed to work together, which is a promise. And the headline dressed the promise up as a result.
In fairness, the underlying need is completely real. Aluminium's a genuine bottleneck for additive manufacturing. The good printable alloys have historically been a short list, and if you want lightweight aerospace parts, you're desperate for more options. So the intent is worth caring about.
Totally. The aluminium's hard to print well. It likes to crack, and it reflects the laser back at you, where more alloys is exactly what the field needs. I just want the question kept front of mind: which specific alloy, how close to market, and whose independent test numbers. When that shows up, wake me. Until then, it's a good intention with a big headline.
Factory floor. Two big ones. Venus Aerospace closed a $91 million Series B, led by Mercury Fund, with Lockheed Martin Ventures in the round. The money's to scale a rotating detonation rocket engine that leans heavily on additive. TCT and Voxel Matters both had it, and there was a successful flight test last year.
Quick unpack, because rotating detonation engine sounds made up. Normal rockets burn fuel smoothly and continuously. A detonation engine instead uses a controlled detonation wave spinning around a ring channel. In theory, more efficient, more thrust for the same fuel. The catch is the geometry is brutal, tight internal channels, insane thermal loads.
And that's the additive manufacturing connection. Those channels are exactly the sort of thing you basically can't machine, but you can print.
Right, printing is arguably the only sane way to make an RDRE at all. So the funding makes sense, and the investor list is real validation. Lockheed's venture arm doesn't write checks for fan fiction. My flag is the phrase successful flight test. That covers a huge range.
Meaning a 5-second burn and a full duration flight are both technically a successful test.
Wildly different things wearing the same words. Was the RDRE the primary propulsion or a bolted-on experiment? How long did it run? The sources don't say, and that silence is normal for a funding announcement, but it's why I'd hold the applause at promising rather than proven. And production in a Series B usually means production of test articles, not a certified flight engine.
The nuclear one has the opposite feel to me. Framatome, French nuclear giant, opened a 6,000 square meter wire arc additive manufacturing center in Romans-sur-Isère, running MX3D systems to make primary circuit components for reactors. 3D printing industry covered it.
This one I like precisely because it's boring in the best way. A big facility, dedicated space, established wire arc additive manufacturing supplier. That's a company putting real capital behind the idea that wire arc belongs in nuclear, but the new era quote is from MX3D, the hardware vendor. So, of course, the tool maker thinks it's a new era.
So where's the line between opening a building and actually making certified parts?
Years, usually. Primary circuit means the safety critical stuff carrying a reactor coolant. That's the most heavily qualified metal on the planet. Nuclear codes don't care how you made a part. They care that you can prove it, batch after batch. A dedicated facility is a genuine bet on getting there. It is not the same as a wire arc additive manufacturing part already sitting in an operating reactor.
So rate it as they're building the runway, not landing the plane, which honestly, in nuclear, is exactly the pace you'd want. I don't want move fast and break things anywhere near a coolant loop.
Please, no. Slow and provable is the entire point in that world. This is a serious, credible step. I just wouldn't let the vendor's press quote tell me qualification is finished when it's almost certainly a multi-year road ahead.
Okay, palette cleanser, and this one's just delightful. There's a technique going around on the 3D printing subreddit called color stacking. The premise is dead simple. Instead of blending colors within a layer, every single layer is one solid color, and swaps only happen at layer changes.
Which quietly dodges the most annoying part of multicolor printing: no purge tower wasting a spool's worth of filament, and no color bleed at the edges, because two colors never share a layer. The transitions are clean by construction.
And the headline trick: the poster claims you can get 16 colors out of a single AMS, which sounds impossible until you do the math. 4 spools loaded, print 4 colors, pause, physically swap in 4 more, keep going. 4 times 4.
It's a Reddit tip, not a lab result, but the logic is airtight. And the reason it works is the vertical separation. Horizontal color changes are where multicolor gets ugly. The bleed, the smearing, stack them, and each color owns its own layers cleanly. You end up with this banded, almost topographic texture.
It's basically using the Z-axis as your palette instead of the XY plane. I lost a multicolor print at 90% once to a purge tower tipping over. This approach just deletes that whole failure mode. There's something very satisfying about a trick that wins by removing complexity.
The honest caveat is your design has to suit it. You're picking colors by height, so it shines on layered, terraced, gradient-y models, and not on something where a logo needs to sit mid-layer. Match the model to the method, and it's genuinely clever.
All right. The one we've both been circling, University of Utah. Researchers published a method that forms a complete 3D object in a single 20-second laser exposure. Voxel Matters wrote it up. The pitch is that this normally takes hours with other laser techniques. Jordan, go.
My first question isn't, is it real? It's 20 seconds to make what? Size, resolution, material. None of that's in the framing, and those are the only numbers that matter. A 3D shape in 20 seconds is a headline. A 2mm micro lens in a single photopolymer would be the actual claim.
Let me play optimist, though, because volumetric printing is a real and cool field. The idea of shaping light so a whole volume of resin cures at once instead of layer by layer, that genuinely exists, and it is fast. So the physics isn't fantasy?
The physics, I'll grant you. It's the comparison I won't. Normally takes hours compared to what? Because that's true of 2-photon polymerization, the ultra-high-res micro-printing technique. It is not true of your desktop SLA, which does centimeter-scale parts in minutes. They're quietly comparing themselves to the slowest possible baseline.
So the straw man is hours, when a resin printer in your garage already isn't hours.
That's the sleight of hand. And I want to be clear, I'm not calling the researchers frauds. Credible university, plausibly real work. It's the write-up doing the inflating. The line that saves it is the source itself flagging practical material limits. 20 seconds is meaningless if it only works with one exotic resin and prints something you can't put a load on.
So my honest verdict? File it as interesting research. Wait for the paper. I'd love it to scale. But we've both watched the pattern. Lab optical setup, dramatic single number, and the size resolution material triangle conveniently off stage.
That triangle is the whole game. Speed, size, resolution, you usually get to pick 2. Any story that brags about one and hides the other 2 has told you exactly where to look. Real until proven hype, or hype until proven real. Either way, show me the object.
One thing to try this week, and it's free, which is my favorite price. If you've got an AMS or any multi-material setup, go try color stacking. Pick a model with real vertical structure, assign one solid color per layer band, and let the Z-axis do the work. No purge tower, no bleed.
And a real tip, nail down your filament change reliability before you go chasing 16 colors. Do a clean 4-color run first. A mid-print manual swap is one more chance for a jam or a missed prime. Get the simple version solid, then get greedy.
Perfect. So, no rockets, no reactors, no orbit required. Just a nice layered print and an afternoon. That's us for the week. Go make something with clean edges, and we'll catch you next time.